This week on Vaticano, Pope Francis appoints a new patriarch for the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. We catch up with him.
Ecco I nomi dei nuovi cardinali.
The Pope also chooses 13 new cardinals from near and far. And meet Philippe Casanova, a Roman painter keeping the Baroque artistic style alive. For this and more, Vaticano starts now.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno. Nell'odierna pagina evangelica.
The Holy Father, Pope Francis, announced 13 new cardinals on Sunday, October the 25th.
Ecco I nomi dei nuovi cardinali.
Among the cardinal designates is the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., Wilton Gregory, to become the first African-American cardinal of the United States. Pope Francis summoned Bishop Grech from Malta in 2019 and appointed him Pro-Secretary General of the Synod of Bishops, and consequently made him Secretary General. On October the 15th, the Italian Bishop Marcello Semeraro replaced Cardinal Angelo Becciu as the head of the Vatican's Congregation for the Causes of Saints. Capuchin Father Raniero Cantalamessa, who has served as the preacher to the pontifical household for 40 years, was appointed a cardinal, but will not be able to participate in a conclave because of his age. Along with Father Cantalamessa, 3 other nominees will not be able to participate in an eventual conclave because they're already over 80 years of age. Learning about each nominee is important because each directly collaborates with the Roman Pontiff. They counsel and assist the Pope directly in the governance of the Church. These men participate in conclaves and vote for future popes, and they themselves may be elected pope in the next conclave. The consistory to create these new cardinals is planned for November the 28th. However, it's unclear if the candidates will be able to travel to the Vatican due to Italy's second wave of coronavirus. It's already known that Christmas celebrations in the Vatican are being planned with a minimal presence of the faithful. Edward Penton is the author of the book The Next Pope, analyzing the situation of the College of Cardinals, and published just months ago. We caught up with Edward to find out how these new cardinal appointments will influence the Cardinals' College.
It's the 7th consistory, cardinal-making consistory the Pope has made. It's being made very much more in his image, if you like, the College of Cardinals, because he's choosing those who he seems are very much of his own mind. And he's now, I think, chosen 73 of the 128 cardinal electors. And so the majority of the College of Cardinals now are those that he's chosen. So very much, they seem to be very much close to the Francis vision. Not all of them, of course. I think some, again, he's gone to the peripheries, he's gone to the global south. He's chosen a bishop from Rwanda, from the Philippines, from Brunei. And these are traditionally more, perhaps you could say, orthodox or conservative, and they're not necessarily totally in tune with what the Pope Francis' vision is for the Church. I think there are some who will be considered to be perhaps papabile in the future, not right now because they've only just been made cardinals. Perhaps there's Father Gambetti, who's only in his 50s. He's a conventual Franciscan from Assisi. He may be considered papabile at one point, simply because he's going to be in the College of Cardinals probably for a long time, being very much in tune with Francis. That's very possible. But the number of cardinal electors by the November 28th, which is when the consistory will be held, is, I think it'll be 128, which is over the 120 limit recommended by Pope Paul VI. But then other popes have gone over the limit too, including Benedict XVI and John Paul II. John Paul II actually had the number up to 135 at one point back in 2001. So it's not unusual for that to happen, but it's a particularly high number. And as I was saying, I think they're now, 73 of those 128 have been chosen by Pope Francis now over these past nearly 8 years.
After the break, we'll be speaking one-on-one with His Beatitude Pier Battista Pizzaballa, the newly appointed Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. Stay with us. Pope Francis appointed Archbishop Pier Battista Pizzaballa, the new Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, on October the 24th, and in a private ceremony in the Vatican, vested him with the pallium, a liturgical garment symbolizing the special bond with the Holy See, worn by the Pope, metropolitan archbishops, and by the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. Patriarch Pizzaballa had been serving as the apostolic administrator of the Patriarchate of Jerusalem since 2016, when the patriarchal office was made vacant. During his time in Jerusalem, Pizzaballa has proved to be an effective administrator. In 4 years, he brought order to the Patriarchate's finances, which were $100 million in the red.
There have been 4 difficult years, and I had a very clear mandate. First, to put order in the administration. Everyone knew that the Latin Patriarchate was very close to bankruptcy, hundreds of millions of debts and so on. So to put order in this, clarify in a very transparent way, and we did it with the support of external society, Deloitte. But at the same time, also to work on pastoral context, to create more unity among the priests, first of all, different communities, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, Cyprus, what we have in common, and to create understanding, trust among the different communities in the same diocese. We had and to be very concrete, at the beginning it was very difficult, but once we have been transparent, I felt that all the community were very supportive, and so we could overcome all our problems and to turn the page finally.
A good financial situation for the Latin Patriarchate is important for the around 300,000 Catholics living in Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and Cyprus. The Patriarchate supports Catholic schools, hospitals, and churches. This support helps Christians to continue to live in their historical lands, and this financial stability is crucial, especially now in the context of political instability and the coronavirus pandemic. You have situations such as the pandemic that people are facing right now. What's the situation for Christians? What's the status?
We had 2 lockdowns, not just one. 2, one in spring and one is finished here in mid of October. And was very difficult, not only because of the health situation of many families, but for the economical situation. The consequences of the lockdown is that thousands of families, especially Christian families, now are without job, without work, without perspective. This creates a very, very difficult situation for hundreds of families in the Bethlehem area, especially in Nazareth area, and also in Jordan, of course.
How much is pilgrimage important to the Holy Land, and is it picking up at this point?
Pilgrimage is now totally cancelled. The borders are still closed, so there are no pilgrims at all. And it was one of the main resources for a Christian family. And unfortunately, I think that because of pandemic, not only in Holy Land, but in all over the world, I don't think that in less than a year we can have the normal pilgrimage situation we had before.
And if we look at Christians in Palestine right now, how are they doing?
The situation in Christian Palestine is very difficult. The poverty is increasing. As I said, one of the main resources was the pilgrimage, and now the pilgrimage is totally cancelled. The other source was to go to work in Israel. And because of a lockdown, they couldn't go. And this created a very, very, very poor situation in hundreds of families, especially in the Bethlehem area.
There's been a lot of migration in the area due to the ongoing conflict in Syria, to the difficulties in Iraq, and also the explosions in Lebanon have created no small amount of difficulty.
You feel that in the population there is a sort of frustration, because what you said, the situation in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, the poverty in Jordan, in Palestine, the political situation between Israel and Palestine, all these aspects that are not new, because this situation is already, we are seeing this situation since years, create a lot of frustration in population and a lot of temptation to leave, to find their future somewhere else. We try to insist with the population to tell that we have to remain because we have vocation to remain, but when we have family and children, it's difficult to convince them.
We look from the outside at Jerusalem as a city of peace, of harmony, of fraternity. Now that you're finishing your mandate, do you feel like you're leaving the city better than when you found it?
The life in Jerusalem is always the same and different at the same time. Because there is a status quo, so always the same traditions, you don't change, but the people change. And so the attitude are changing. Unfortunately, from the political perspective, the situation is a situation of more tension, unfortunately. But the positive aspect is, at least among us Christians, we have a better understanding. The restoration of the Holy Sepulchre is just an example that we are able now, what was difficult in the past, to cooperate together. And also at the pastoral level, we have a lot of cooperation among us that in the past was much more difficult.
And if we look at the relationship between the Patriarchate of Jerusalem and the Knights and Ladies of the Holy Sepulchre, how important is that relationship to the support of Christians in the Holy Land?
I learned in these 4 years how important is the role of the Knights and Ladies of the Holy Sepulchre for the Holy Land. Every year, most of the pastoral activities and educational activities, schools, parish churches and so on, are supported by the Knights and the Ladies of the Holy Sepulchre.
Well, we've spoken about what you've brought to the Holy Land, but what would you say the Holy Land has brought to you?
Holy Land changed my life of faith also. I arrived there 30 years ago. I didn't know the languages. I came from a very, very Catholic context, and I was suddenly in a context where we were just 1% of the population. But I understood that in this quagmire of religions and political tensions, we can find men and women of faith that can help you to read your faith in a new way through the holy places, the scriptures, and the meetings with the men of faith. It was wonderful.
What would you ask the Christians of the Holy Land and Christians all over the world for you on your coming path?
For 30 years, most of my life, I lived in Holy Land. So I'm part of the Holy Land. I'll continue to be part of it. So we have to remain united in prayer, first of all, in friendship, and wherever the providence will bring me, I will bring Holy Land.
Thank you so much, Archbishop Pier Battista Pizzaballa.
Welcome.
In a few moments, we'll be back with more on Vaticano. Rome is the birthplace of the Baroque style of art and architecture. Baroque was born here within the context of the Counter-Reformation in the 15th century, as a tool to reaffirm and spread the beauty of Catholic doctrine and to revive popular faith. Over the course of a few centuries, the Baroque style shaped the city of Rome into the true capital of the arts. In the 18th century, Baroque would progressively fade out, giving way to more uncluttered and simple artistic movements, such as Neoclassicism. However, in the studio of French-born Roman painter Philippe Casanova, the Baroque spirit continues to triumph.
When I first came to Rome more than 25 years ago, I didn't have a precise idea of what Baroque art was, but I remember the first time I entered the Church of Jesus, the great church of St. Ignatius of Loyola. And I found it so extraordinarily beautiful. This explosion of light and then of colours, and the harmony of it all of a sudden, it was as if Rome had become my home in a way. I felt extremely attracted to this city, and I came to think, little by little, that there was a special relationship between Rome and Baroque, that it was something characteristic of Rome.
C'est un art qui personnellement m'a bouleversé.
It is an art that personally knocked me over. It corresponded to my quest for aesthetics and to my religious aspirations. I found that both dimensions came together. They blend within the Baroque universe. I've always felt, without questioning myself too much, that if I was moved, then there was no reason why Baroque couldn't change the life of many others. This extraordinary beauty of Baroque art gives me the desire to pray. It gives me hope and makes me want to be a better person.
Ça me donne envie de m'améliorer, voilà.
Philippe Casanova says he always asks the Holy Spirit to guide his brush and to make his art a prayer. And he uses light in his paintings to express the supernatural dimension surrounding human existence.
In fact, light is fundamental, especially since we're in Rome, and this city always has light. The paintings we see in Rome, those that we soak up when we live in Rome, are full of strong lights and shadows. This reflects a Christian vision of existence, consisting of suffering, concerns, imperfections, and anxieties, but in it, many wonderful things can also happen to us. This struck me and attracted me greatly to Baroque art. I found two dimensions. On the one hand, the chaos of reality, everything that can happen, which reveals how mediocre we are and that we have reason to never be fully satisfied with ourselves. And on the other hand, the beauty of creation, which is present in this art.
These two antagonistic dimensions of chaos and beauty, light and darkness, are characteristic of Casanova's works. As we can see in his most recent projects, a painting exhibited in St. Philip Neri's oratory, the Church of Santa Maria in Vallicella, and a new ceiling for a Baroque church of Rome. Both are dedicated to the third apostle of Rome, St. Philip Neri, founder of the Congregation of the Oratory and a strong supporter of Baroque art.
C'est une composition, disons, qui est en l'honneur de Saint Philippe Neri.
This project was made in honor of Saint Philip Neri, who has always guided me while I've been in Rome and who always helped me. This composition will be made in honor of Saint Philip Neri and will represent his pilgrimage, which is one of the most ancient Roman pilgrimages and is called the Seven Churches Tour. We don't know exactly if St. Philip Neri created it or reintroduced a more ancient tradition, but it is a pilgrimage I've been doing for years, and I have been thinking for a long time that I should do a painting, or rather a painting cycle, about this pilgrimage, since it is so important to me. It is through the pilgrimage that I've become so deeply enchanted by the beauty of Rome, and that I better understand the spiritual vocation of Rome.
Casanova differentiates himself from many contemporary artists by rejecting the very notion of contemporary art. Which he sees as an ideological notion. He's convinced that beauty is intrinsically timeless and universal.
Je pense que le beau donne surtout envie aux
I think beauty makes humans want to better themselves. It makes them realize that there is a part of beauty in every human. Therefore, the role of an artist is to try to reflect and magnify this beauty. And at the same time, if one is a believer, one thinks this visible and perceptible beauty is a reflection, however pale, of the beauty and splendor of God and His goodness. Otherwise, why would He give us this marvelous creation?
Toute cette création, on nous aurait environné de cette création merveilleuse.
Men are called to partake in God's artistic creation. As St. Pope John Paul II described in his 1999 letter to the artists, all men and women are entrusted with the task of crafting their own life. In a certain sense, they are to make of it a work of art, a masterpiece.